if someone is not familiar with what you recommend, and you were going to try to sum up and explain what your lifestyle recommendations, what foods to eat, what lifestyle choices to make, could you try to give us the plan of what is the ideal lifestyle that you recommend in terms of food and attitude and exercise and everything? And
well, let's start with food, since that's it. It's certainly green, as fresh as possible, and as living as possible. Now, every other creature on Earth, except domestic animals, which we control, literally live on a 100% raw diet. There's no species on Earth, except humans, that do not consume a 100% raw food diet in nature. We, for 60 years, have primarily put people on a 100% organic, raw food, green diet, and had done clinical research on humans, by the way. So unlike a lot of the philosophers that write health books, we're not philosophers. We're research junkies. So when people come in, at the beginning of their stay, we do blood tests at the end. And if you're an intelligent alumnus of Hippocrates and listen to what we ask, for the rest of your life, you send back medical blood tests to our medical team. And so we accrue data. We accrue data. So we have people, for instance, who came to us 30 and 40 and 50 years ago, longer than that. And here is Mary that came to us with cardiovascular disease, or Harry who came with brain cancer. And we watch this transformation, and we have records to support that. Now, we're not a research science institute, we're an educational institute. So we don't purport or pretend to be researchers. But what we do is we have a policy to be very transparent. That I challenge anyone listening anywhere in the world today, if you're a legitimate organization, an institution of education and science and medicine, and you approach us and petition us to come and do research at Hippocrates, we welcome it. We welcome it. Because there's no organization in history that we're aware of, and most of my colleagues worldwide are aware, that have 60 years history that accrue data like this. And so it's nice to say anecdotally, yes, here's Mary, and she was dying, and she was in a wheelchair, and here's a young lady who had a brace on, and here's somebody who had stage 4 cancer. But sadly today, we're not that bright, so we need empirical evidence. You know, this is gone, and this is where it all is. So we're ready to give you the empirical evidence once you're ready to really listen and do it, and do it good. Do a good job at collecting this. So that's what I have to say about that. But the raw, the fresh, the green, now why? All life comes from the sun. Through evolution, what developed on this planet were green leaves to capture the life from the sun. So primarily, that's where all life comes from here. Now, why would we go beyond the green leaf? Why would we slaughter an animal who ate a green leaf, then take it one step further into stupidity, cook the animal, eat the animal, and think that we're getting nutrition? And then you have entire systems of nutrition that tell you have to do that, by the way, that you can't go to where all the nutrition is. The highest protein levels in green leafy vegetables. The highest vitamin level is in green leafy vegetables. If it's grown properly, the highest mineral level and the highest essential fat level is in green leafy vegetables. Now, the way we do fresh foods and green foods is Ann Wigmore, with her infinite wisdom and instinctualism, realized that if you live in cold climates, not here in Florida, but many of you listening worldwide live in very cold climates, you can have gardens, green leafy gardens, 12 months a year. And she adapted sprouts. So now let's bring up modern science. Over the last 30 years, we've discovered things in sprouts that stun us. It's almost that the universe has shed light upon this and given us a gift. That in sprouts we find the most phytonutrients. Phytonutrients literally are these extraordinary elements that were discovered first in 1948 and begun serious research in the early 90s, that literally nature, God if you will, put into these green leafy plants that have medical, medicinal, and preventative qualities. And now the real research in science that's at least interesting to me, nutritional science, is phytonutrient research. Because we discovered that every fruit, every vegetable, and every green leaf, but the top sprouts have these phytochemicals. Years ago, we realized broccoli helped to prevent and even reverse cancer. But when they took a broccoli seed and sprouted it, they realized the sulforaphane they discovered in broccoli was 50 times stronger in the broccoli sprout. And that's been inherent to all of the sprouts. So there's an easy way, an inexpensive way. So if you're out there listening in Africa, in a village that has no money, you can eat this way. You don't have to be wealthy to do this. So it actually levels the playing field, as I say. So I'm as happy to go into the poorest regions of the world and speak about this diet as I am the wealthiest countries in the world. Number two, attitude, to sum it up, you have to find your passion and you have to pursue it. The words I use is PP. If you don't find your PP, you're not going to go very far. Personal passion. Now, you will never be happy doing what you don't love. Does everyone realize that? Yeah. But how come your mother and father didn't tell you that? How come your educational systems didn't tell you that? How come the society basically says, oh, you've got to struggle, you've got to fight, no matter what it takes, you've got to survive. And that's why everyone is unhappy, and I believe this is really why we're sick. This is the ultimate reason we're sick. We're in a river trying to go the opposite way, and we don't know how to swim. Rather than jump in the river, relax, and take a ride. And that's really what it's about. You take the ride in the river. So I don't care how old you are. I've seen this happen. You know, we had a young lady who was one of the most successful, and I won't name names, some of you may know, from up in the Midwest, one of the most successful female attorneys in the history of the major city she was from. And at Hippocrates, she chose to leave her profession. And I asked her in a class, what are you going to do? And she got up. It warmed our hearts. She said, you know, for the first time in my life, I don't know what I'm going to do. I was the best in kindergarten. I was the best in grade school, the best in high school. I graduated at the top of my class, went to graduate school, got my doctorate in law, and basically, I was the best. And she said, it's so liberating, I don't know what I'm going to do. But now she's an artist, and no, she doesn't make $1 million a year as she did. But boy, she must be really happy. I haven't seen her in a long time, but she must be really happy. And I'm sure she's successful, because I don't know anyone that gets the PP, the personal passion, that's not successful. So that's really what the happy thing is. And that's what we were talking about on the stage with your friend today. I loved her. I loved her. She was so clear. She was so beautiful. And she was so candid. What she offers you is her struggle. And we follow the struggle of anyone, and we can actually liberate ourselves. The last thing is exercise. Now, this is probably the most overlooked thing in the cerebral field of natural health care. I'm so tired of little skinny vegans telling me, oh, I'm too skinny. Well, start to lift weight. I'd be awfully skinny. I've been a vegan and a raw fooder for a long time. If you want to have weight on your body, don't whine about it. Go to a gym and lift weight. The only weight that you need is muscle. If you have an ounce of fat, that contributes to disease. And I mean it. You don't have to have what I had, 82 million ounces of fat on my body. You know, 1 ounce contributes to disease. So weightlifting is mandatory. Remember, we didn't have to have gyms 5 generations ago. Everyone weightlifted, or you died. It was called farming. You're going to weightlift? No. Okay, you're going to starve to death. Go on, lay down now. So they were out there weightlifting every day and doing aerobic exercise. You know, one of the great stories is I was up speaking at the Amish country in Pennsylvania, and I always had a fantasy I wanted to get behind a plow. You ever see the big horse? Beautiful horse. And they had this wooden plow, and I had just conducted a lecture, and it was the springtime, and the sun is coming down, and they finally said, do you think you could really pull that thing? As much as I think I'm strong, you can't get behind that. And I'm thinking to myself, everyone, my great-great-grandparents did this. Everyone could take that plow and not take it and stand up with a 200-pound plow and have these horses pull, but they did it for 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. We all develop muscle. So we're the first enigma. We're the lab rats at this point, not exercise. Aerobic, do you realize I have a belief, and I'm sure I can statistically prove this if you give me the money and statisticians, that I think you can speed up healing and recovery of diseases, depending upon the disease, the disorder, from 3 to 7 times faster just by aerobic exercise. Now, why not? Because stem cells are the new cells that create new tissue, new bones, and if you're doing aerobic exercise, the stem cells are coming out, and you're flushing away what? The toxins and the dead cells and the disease cells. So of course you're going to speed up the process. So this is the recipe, Stephen. It's a very simple recipe, but very difficult because it's so different than our culture out there today. You know, most of you would rather, as you said, as I wanted to at one point, look for the guy who tells you that an all-meat diet is great. Get on the paleo diet, get on the Atkins diet. Look for the guy that tells you in the raw community, oh, just eat superfood. Eat goji berries, and fruit's a great thing, and 80% of your diet should be fruit. That's what you really want me to do. But if you really want to know what's going on, you go to the organization for 60 years that have done clinical research on the sickest people in the world who have proof of what's going on, and we're learning. Nobody knows everything. You know, that's what science is, by the way. Science is I get up every day and hope to God I learn a lot more than I knew yesterday. But boy, we've learned a hell of a lot in 60 years. And that's what I would suggest you start to look at. Not the latest fad, but the substantial information and data that now colleagues, as you're starting to see in this conference, coming together, are all learning in our own way. I said to Gary Knoll yesterday, I said, it's interesting because I've known him for over 40 years. And I said, we've all come to the same conclusions, haven't we? And we smiled and said, yeah, because there's only one truth. There's not a lot of truths. You all show up here.
Part of the program you recommend is twice a day to juice wheatgrass and a sprout juice with some organic green vegetables, and then twice a day a big salad made of lots of green vegetables, lots of sprouts, sprouts meaning a sprouted seed or a sprouted bean or grain. And this is a fundamental part of your recommendations on diet. However, there are people like yesterday Helen Caldicott spoke about radiation, we hear about chemicals, we hear about heavy metals. In terms of dealing with this, I know you've written a book on how to prevent it with the clothing and everything, but being that we are getting exposed to it no matter what we do, what is the general plan to not let this harm us? How do we deal with this?
Well, of course, we choose organic seeds. And, you know, for us, this is not a religion. We're not fanatics. We also believe in what we can do daily to prevent and empower ourselves. And as long as we are feeding our body, it can also detoxify a lot of things on its own. And when we're juicing, we're more or less getting a blood transfusion. It's the blood of the plant, and it is so easy for our body to digest juice. And the thing is, I mean, we've seen it now. So for all the years that, especially that we've done blood testing at the Institute, we've seen what it does. People come often and they've finished their chemotherapy, radiation, their white and red blood cells, they're very anemic. It's, you know, they come in a very bad shape. And you can see how it boosts the immune system. And when you can get your own immune system active, it has such an impeccable intelligence that it will help to protect you. And yes, we are all bombarded with radiations. I mean, we daily take saunas to clean out. We take a lot of freshwater lake algae and ocean seaweeds, and we take care with the exercise and lifestyle. And of course, we love what we do. You know, we would pay to go to the institute and just to work there. I mean, we love every day that we come to work, and so does all the co-workers that we have at the institute, because you see some of them here, and we have such a balance because we're working with this and we're living this way. And anybody that makes it a religion is going to have problem. You know, you want to take steps. Brian has a way to tell you how you can get into this, maybe in a much more humane way, especially if this is brand new for you.
If you're sick, you have to jump on the horse and learn to ride it. If you're not, you say, okay, I'm going to change over the next year or even longer. But to get back to the important part of your question, what do we do with radiation? Is diet enough? Well, the green diet, when Anna Marie and I were invited to Russia after Chernobyl, and we worked with some of the victims of Chernobyl, we were using massive amounts of freshwater green algae and blue-green algae. And recently, we've been very fortunate to work with a colleague who's taught us to use something called rad erase. Now, when I'm tested, I quite often have high radiation because I fly on planes very much more than any human being should. And in planes, you are saturated with radioactivity. Plus that, the entire Earth, as you saw from Helen's portrayal yesterday, is contaminated with this. And it's, you know, every time there's a leak, every time we put a bomb off in the Middle East, every time a nuclear power plant, even if you don't know it, is releasing something. You literally are never going to have that go away in our lifetime, maybe for 100,000 years or more. So to take something like rad erase, that's something we have, we may even have it here with us, is helpful. It's a homeopathic level of things. But saunas are incredibly important. I mentioned earlier today, if you were here, that I take sauna, Anna Maria takes sauna 365 days a year. And the greatest gift you can give yourself is to buy an infrared sauna. They're not much money, and you can buy them on time. You know, you pay X amount a month, and it's not like a car payment, it's significantly less. And so these are all things. Living on a polluted planet today, it's not good enough just to eat a diet if we are subjected to radioactivity, if we're subjected to chemicals at a bizarre level today. So the use of supplementation and addendum therapies like saunas, exercise in and of itself, and drinking pure water. I mean, if you look at the natural way to do this, until we contaminated the earth, it was drinking a lot of water and exercising. That was the sauna of the day, we should say.